kind of being able. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Yeah.
No pressure.
No pressure. All right. So these are the topics, and for the types of logons, there are these different logons. These are the important ones that I figured out. They have different numbers associated with the logon type, but local logon, network logon, new credentials, and remote interactive are probably the most common ones you'll see. So local logon, just type 2, is just a user actually physically logs on to the system. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Network logon is anytime a user logs on over the network using typically like WMI or SMB. So these are, your tried and true, your trusty WMI exec, SMB exec, stuff like that. WinRM, PowerShell remoting, that kind of thing. So I have some examples here. So that's a network logon type 3. So, and then new credentials type 9. This is when you run a program with explicit credentials. So there's some Win32 APIs that will allow you to create a process with alternate credentials, but the run as program is a great example. In Windows, you can do run as net only, and then your credentials are changed for the network. So that's a logon type 9 or new credentials. And finally, remote interactive 10. So this is remote desktop. Probably see this a lot, but yeah, that's it. So those are the important ones. The key takeaway about these logon sessions are they store credentials in a different way from each other. So network logon here, which is type 3, we talked about, is the only logon type session or logon session type that does not store credentials in in LSASS or LSA or whatever. Yeah, so essentially this sets us up for what's called the double hop problem, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But the idea here is if you use a network logon, there are no credentials stored in the system that you can use to authenticate to other systems, or also there are no credentials that can be dumped out by tools like maybe cats or whatever. So a network logon is like kind of annoying to see from a red team perspective, because of the lack of credentials that actually exist for these network logons. So all other logon types have reusable credentials. So interactive logon, remote desktop, like RDP, and new credentials, I think. So all the other ones generally have the credentials stored in memory that you can recover or use. Let's see here. Okay, so double hop problem. So this is the the diagram of the double hop problem. So if you have a normal account here, you can use it to do a remote logon to a server. This is not a server. If you have a server, you can use a remote logon to another server. But then in this case, I have these are examples, but the workstation does a remote logon to a server, and then you try to do a second hop to another server afterwards, and you're going to get access denied. Your credentials aren't going to be valid after that first hop. So the reason for that is because of this caching of credentials. So network logon does not cache credentials. So the first hop here uses the cache credentials from the workstation, and then the second hop, since it's a network logon, will not have any cache credentials to be able to use to authenticate in this chain. So that's a problem for us. So here's basically some demonstration of this. So you can do invoke command and enter PS session are PowerShell remoting commandlets that you can use to demonstrate this. The same concept works with WMI or SMB or whatever other whatever other lateral movement you're doing. So in this case up here, I do invoke command on the DC, then it works, and I do From the SQL server here, I do invoke command on the DC and it works. But when I try to enter the PS session, so I try to log in to the SQL server from my workstation, and then I try to run an invoke command from the SQL server, we get an error saying basically can't connect to the remote server because there's a Kerberos error and it says, here's a possible explanation, username and password is incorrect. So even though I have like a session of a domain admin, in this screenshot, it's not letting me authenticate to remote resources because of that network logon and how credentials are not cached. So I can't use that session to authenticate to remote resources. And that's the double hop problem, right? That second hop here is where we run into issues. So, okay, so this is like WMI. So on the 0th hop here, I wrote a tool that basically pulls out logon sessions and tells you what kind of logon session. So right here, this is the 0th hop. We can see my session here is interactive, which is 2. And then I use WMI to execute code on another machine. And then you can see here that now my logon session is turned to network logon, which is type 3. And then after that, basically the second hop will fail because of the no credentials from this network logon session. So that's another way of looking at it, I guess. So, and then like, why do you actually care about double hop? Because this is everywhere. So if you do, chaining of beacons or rats or whatever, anything after the first hop here, that's second hop. So you basically run into this double hop problem in every chain past the first one. So everything basically on the right side of this picture here, this is all double hop, and you'll have to deal with some double hop problems. So knowing what it is and how to fix it is important for pen testers. So Microsoft talks about double hop and some of their documentation from perspective of an administrator. So how do you fix double hop problem as an administrator? So here are some solutions. CredSSP or Kerberos delegation are pretty much what they recommend here, both of which degrade the security of the system when you enable these. CredSSP allows storing of credentials basically on these systems, even during network logons, which is not secure or degrade security. You can get your creds stolen if you cache them in memory. And of course delegation, which maybe you're familiar with, kind of talked about this a little bit before, but yeah, you can get your Kerberos tickets nabbed with delegations. So definitely not really any good ways from an administrative perspective to solve this problem with security. Yeah, but we don't really care about admins too much. We care about like how to solve this solution as pen testers. So here are some solutions I have. A couple things: you can provide alternative credentials. So that's the run as command in Windows or make token in Beacon. This basically does the logon type 9, logon type 9, which is the new credentials, this one. So we can explicitly use credentials. If we have clear text creds, we can bypass this. So basically right here on the second hop, we would say, okay, my network logon session isn't doing it for me. I'm gonna do a run as with explicit credentials so that I can get over to the second hop here successfully. So that's an option. Can steal authentication tokens. So a couple of ways of doing that. You can either, I guess you could steal a token straight up if like Beacon supports something like that. Can inject into other processes. So maybe there's an admin logged in or something. So you could run code in their process, which basically uses their access token, or you could create a new process in another user's session. Basically in the same way it'll use that user's authentication package. Or we can do some pass the ticket stuff with Kerberos to use previously gathered hashes or clear text credentials to basically inject a ticket, grant a ticket, or a service ticket here, which almost all the time works. Or we can use Mimikatz to pass the hash, which is kind of bad, but these are the options. Typically, I like to use Rubius pass the ticket, which is like, in my opinion, the cleanest of these. Unless you have clear text credentials, then you can use make token.
Hey, can I ask you a question? Not to
Yeah,
interrupt.
Yep.
What's the mitigation for pass the ticket attacks in case the client asks you, say, how to stop that? Is there really any way to stop that?
There is not really any way to stop that. It's kind of like a pass the hash. Once you have credentials or ticket material, it's not really possible to stop an attacker from using that. It's almost like saying, like, once an attacker has a password, how do you prevent them from using it? It's like, that doesn't really make sense, right? Like, the solution is to stop them from getting the password in the first place. It's the same concept with pass the ticket. So like, the solution to pass the ticket is don't let your tickets be dumped out of memory, or or other credential material that can be used to create tickets. So,
okay.
The next best would be detection then, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If you can't prevent it, then you got to be able to detect it.
Yep. So how do you detect ticket dumping, like on Windows? So Rubius has Rubius dump, which uses some Win32 APIs to do like LSA get authentication package or something like that, which you can basically dump out all the tickets on the system. So that Win32 API should probably be monitored, and like, there's some detection you can do for ticket dumping on Windows, although it's a little bit less mature currently. Like AV currently has a harder time detecting that than dumping LSAS or something. So, but they're both really valuable. So Ruby is definitely like a tool to look at for red or blue team, I guess. So these are the methods. So I'm gonna try to do demo here. So I'm gonna stop sharing, and then I'm gonna share over here. I wrote some stuff with Bad Rats recently, where you can kind of do some chaining and stuff. So I wanted to show that off and talk about the double hop problem in action. So let's see here. So so I'm just gonna get a stager running here really quick, and then I'll show you pivoting and other stuff. So the scenario I'm doing is a user here on this workstation clicks on a link or something, and they run a rat on their computer basically, through phishing or whatever, social engineering. So this session here, right, on my Windows 10 machine, this is an interactive session, so it's a logon type 2, and we can see that. I'll do that. I'll show you this. Get logon type. So I wrote this program here that'll show you the logon types. So in this case, there's only one user logged on, which is this Sid. This is the K Clark user, which is a domain admin, and they're logged on in an interactive session, which means credentials have been cached in memory. So we can use that to do stuff like, access file shares remotely, right? So this kind of accessing UNC paths this is a network logon, right? But our user who is a domain admin basically can do these network logons. So we're gonna take advantage of those stored credentials, and I'm gonna pivot over to the IIS server here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, let's see, I gotta go over here and edit this file. So bad rats now allows you to do pivoting or a chaining of rats. So that's kind of cool. So instead of just having these 3 rats here, the HTA, the JScript, and the PS1, there's also these 2 additional rats here that are SMB rats. So you know, that's how you do that. So I'm going to edit the JScript one, the JScript SMB one, and then you always have to edit the call home path. So in the case of pure rats with bad rat, it works over files, SMB files. So maybe a little bit dirty, but you know, who's going to look at a text file? Hopefully. Yeah, and it's not like name pipes don't have their own problems, which is what Cobalt Strike uses. So I'm just going to call this like, I don't know, bridge or something, text. So all this does here is basically tell this rat to write its file or read and write communications to this file. And so yeah.
Is it encoded or encrypted or just clear text?
It's not encoded or encrypted. Bad rat does a lot of some other encryption for other tools. So any C# or whatever, that's all encrypted. Like when you transfer assemblies or whatever. So there's like a moderate amount of encryption, but not everything is completely encrypted. So that's, you know, probably something I'd want to fix eventually, but for now it works. So you know, I'm gonna just leave it at that. So we're gonna go over here. I'm gonna upload this rat that I just edited. So the badrat.smb JScript one, I'm gonna upload it to the IIS server. $, I'll call it, I don't know, badrat smb.js. So you can upload to SMB paths, upload and download to SMB paths with badrat, which is kind of cool. So essentially what this does is it takes the file on my local server here and it sends it through the workstation, through this workstation right here. And then it uploads it to the SMB, you know, SMB share that's hosted on this server here. So it's actually going through 2 machines, I guess, when you upload it to an SMB share like this. So, and then we're gonna do, we're gonna use WMI to execute this. Sharp WMI is a ghost pack tool, pretty common. So there's other ways of doing lateral movement, but WMI is clean and it's pretty classic. So your name command, we're gonna run wscript of C SMB, oh wait, SMB.js. So we're gonna run this. We get results back telling us that the process, there's a process running here, 2768, running on the IIS server here. So that's cool. So now that we have that, we should be able to link this parent rat to the child rat. So we remember that this this rat is going to this file, cbridge.txt. So all we need to do is basically link it over that path. So I'm going to link it to IIS $bridge.txt. Okay, so we're linking it over this SMB share. So it uses the link command for JScript and HTAs. Just use straight up JScript. So there's no no extra process being created or anything like that. So it's that's pretty nice. So we do rats now. We can see that we have a new rat that checked in here, this 6451. And you can see this is running on IIS, the server we just uploaded this thing to. And we can see the upstream rat here is 67143, blah, 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 which is this one right here. So this 645, this is a child rat of 67. So I can interact with this one here. You should be able to see kind of the arrow thing. So basically the prompt here changes and it shows that like this one we're interacting with goes through this rat right here. So host name or whatever, it just runs some commands. All the communications are tunneled through that parent rat. So yeah. So that's just one hop, right? So we did one hop right now. So what if we wanted to do a second hop? Well, I'll show you that because this one, this rat we're in currently is a network logon that we did with WMI, we'll no longer be able to access network resources again. So if I do a dir, first of all, so I'm still the K Clark user here, right? Which is a domain admin and should be able to access network resources, right? But if I try to do like a dir of like, you know, the $C on the domain controller, which normally you'd be able to do, you can see that we're going to get an access denied here for that reason that the logon type that we are running in is a network logon type. So we've lost those credentials basically.
This is because you executed your implant over WMI.
Over WMI, but it's not just WMI, it's WMI, it's SMB.
Right. But in this particular scenario, I'm saying just because you used that type of connection that, okay.
So you can see here, this one right here, this is network. This is what we are. This is the SID for the K Clark user, and we're in a network logon. So as opposed to previously, which was up here, this is on the first rat, we were in this, this interactive logon here, right? And so basically I'm just demonstrating what the slides showed a little bit earlier, is that the network logon, we don't have credentials stored to be able to access network resources. So that's a big problem.
Is that associated with just that process that you spawned, or anything that's created by that process after the fact will all be associated with that network logon?
So it will be associated with my logon session. No, it won't be. It's associated with my logon. So I'm listing the processes out here. So where am I? I'm running in still right here. So that's me. So yeah, there can be multiple logons associated with one logon session, but basically any lateral movement stuff that you do, it's all going to be network logon basically, unless it's RDP. That's like the only like lateral movement kind of method that you could use that would not be a network logon. Everything else, WinRM, WMI, SMB, RPC, they're all going to be network logons. So kind of unfortunate for us, but there's ways around, as I showed earlier, those options there. So let's do this. So let's do, I'm going to upload, let's change this. So I'm going to change this file here. I'm going to do bridge 2. And then we're going to upload this new SMB rat. So I'm going to upload rats bedrat.smb.js. I'll put it in C smb2.js. And then we're going to use, basically we're going to do run as here to run this rat as I guess I could do that. We're gonna do, yeah, run as to run this with new credentials. We'll do a logon type 9 to do that. So I have my file here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do, there's a tool called run as CS. I'll show you the help for that. So this should pop up the help in a little bit. Basically, this allows, it's like a kind of a rewrite of the Microsoft run as command, except in C# and with some other things. So this would be similar to make token in Beacon. You'd use make token for this. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a process with alternate credentials so that we can use that one instead. So
You're using this as opposed to cmd.exe because it's just better OPSEC, or because DMD is not functional in this scenario?
The regular run as binary doesn't allow you to specify a password on the command line, which is a big problem for C2s. So it's like an interactive program.
Oh, it prompts you. Okay. Yep.
It prompts you, right? Which
Copy.
is not what we want to do. So this is a rewrite that doesn't prompt you, and it just lets you create a process with different credentials. So you can actually see here that you're allowed to specify the logon type here in this run as CS, and it defaults to 3, which is network logon. And so we don't want to do that. We want to use the new credentials, which is logon type 9, if you remember. So I'm going to do that. So we'll do L9, and then I need to do a couple other things here. I need to do timeout, should be 0, because we just want to run just run it in the background. And then I need my domain, username, password, and command. So these border.local, username is Kit Clark, password is this. So this assumes that, we couldn't do this if we didn't have clear text credentials. But in this case, I'm just assuming we do. And then we want to run wscript of C:, I think I called it, what did I upload this to? SMB.rat.js. So this file. So we want to run this file. Okay. So it might take a little bit, but should run this program in the background. So it tells us, running in session 0 with function create process with token W here. This is the Win32 API that's using to create the process. And it says the async process is in the background with this process ID. So I'm going to go back.
Did you say that you actually created that run as CS, or is that something that you found online?
Run as CS is a tool created by, say, like Anthony, whatever. Antonio Coco, this dude.
Okay, cool.
So this is a project or whatever that I compiled, but yeah, I didn't make it myself, but it's a cool one. So this program is running in the background, right? And then it's an SMB rat, and we gave it the path bridge2.txt. So I'm going to go back here to my 6.7, which is the original one, and I'm going to link this to the bridge2.txt. Okay. So rats can be linked to multiple other child rats simultaneously, which is cool, I think. So now we have a second one here, and you can see the links here. There are 2 links associated with this rat. Yeah, and so this one that just checked in, this 881 here, this one is the one that we created with run as CS. So it's linked, and so now hopefully we can, since we specified alternate credentials, we should be able to get around the double hop problem here and authenticate over the network to other resources. And we can, which is cool. So this is one way of solving the double hop problem. So we could do the same thing. I don't know if you guys want, but I could, oh, let's do that. So I'll do that. So I'm gonna upload. So I want to make a third chain. I want to finish my double hop. So
Your DC looks very compromised.
yes, it is very compromised. Everything else network is very compromised.
Is there a way to do that without having a plain text password?
Yeah, so there are other ways. The other options there in the PowerPoint. So yeah, we can do process injection or use use Rubius to do kind of like a pass the ticket style thing to get out of this double hop problem. So I'll demo that in a little bit, hopefully. Yeah.
You mentioned that RDP was excluded from that network logon type, right? That it's technically like a probably logon type 2, right? But if you pass
it's 10.
10,
it's a remote
but it's
interactive.
Remote interactive. Okay. But if you pass the hash to authenticate to RDP, does that then become a network logon type?
Yeah, so when you do that, that's called restricted admin, and then credentials are no longer cached. So let's see here. So this is the page I took this from. So the logon type, the ID associated with it, and then like this reusable credentials and LSA. So you can see here all these. This one, remote interactive, is 10, which is remote desktop. And so yeah, credentials will be cached in memory for remote interactive. So yeah, so I'm gonna finish this chain up here really quick. So I'm just gonna upload this rat to the DC here, and then eventually, hopefully it uploads, and then we'll do the same thing. We do sharp wmy computer name equals DC, action is exec, and the command is wscript c .sb.js. So there's no graph, unfortunately. That's like the Cobalt Strike thing. But if you use your imagination, you kind of hopefully keep track of like where we are. So at this point, we're on this peer rat here, and we're running stuff on the DC here. So this is the third system. So now I can link to DC. I think it's just bridge2.txt. So I'm doing another link here to add another link to the chain. Should check us in a new rat, and there we go. So now we have this third one right here, 1.8. That is 3 links down, or yeah, basically goes through 2 peers back to the server. And so yeah, we've bypassed the double hop problem at this point. So that's one way. So let's see here. So I'm going to stop sharing over here. So I go back here. So we did this one, the very first option here, provide alternate credentials, run as, or make token. So that's what we did there. Obviously, there's other examples here. So, but first, I wanted to talk about these Windows logon sessions. So if you look in Task Manager or like Process Hacker, or just do a task list /v, you can see that different processes on your system have a different session ID. So typically, if you're the only one that's logged in, you're probably session ID 1 here. And then there's always session ID 0, which is like the system or the computer itself. And then, if there's maybe 3 users logged in, there's going to be like a 1, a 2, and a 3. So each user has their own logon session, basically, is what that is. And so when we're doing movement as an attacker, basically all of our lateral movement methods, we actually get dropped into session 0. So all the system processes run in session 0, right? So that's the task scheduler, that's the services, that's the WMI service or whatever. So all these things you notice here. So WMI exec spawns stuff, processes off of this WMI priv executable, which is in session 0, and then PS exec is the same thing. So uploads a binary, which is executed by the system or executed by the services, the service control manager, which is session 0. So it's right here. And then also at exec, or this is the task scheduler, which executes in session 0. So basically all lateral movement techniques are going to drop you into session 0, which is it's a problem actually. So why is it a problem? Session 0 is non-interactive. So this means we can't do this Rubius pass the ticket thing for TGTs. So I spent a long time trying to figure this out, and I still don't fully understand exactly what's going on and why you can't do this. But I'll try to show you what you can do instead. So these are the solutions for session 0. So when you're in session 0, you're more limited to what you can do, I guess. I think the reason you can't do this pass the ticket with Rubius is because it fights with system's Kerberos ticket. I think that's why. And so you can't do that. So I'm gonna, let's see. Yeah, I'll wait on that for now. So I'm gonna do here. So I'm gonna show you. We're gonna go back. We're gonna do this one. So this 6.4 we're at here is the one that's network logon. So I can show you the basically we're still in network logon at this point. Network. Oh, that's kind of cool. Here are the new credentials. So this is the same system. These are the new credentials that we created earlier with the run as CS command or program. So let's see here. So we're still in this this network logon though. So if we try to do let's see here. So just to show you, like this still does not work from this rat. We're not allowed to access network resources because we're in the network logon session. If you had a password hash, you could do like pass the ticket or overpass the hash with Rubius. Unfortunately, we are in session 0 right now, so I'll try to show you that. So it should be the two overpass the hash commands that you're going to want for Rubius are ask TGT and then ask TGS. So ask TGT will basically go through the Kerberos dance and get a ticket granting ticket from Active Directory for you. So we can do that. So Rubius ask TGT. We might want user is K Clark, and then we could do a hash here. So like if we had the RC4 hash here. So assume that we have the password hash, but not the password for the K Clark user. We can do this to request a ticket granting ticket. And here's the output. So, action is ask TGT, and here's the ticket granting ticket for this K Clark user. So typically you would be able to do one of these. So I'm going to run the command again with this pass the ticket flag here, which would pass the Kerberos ticket back into our session. And it says that the ticket's imported here. So you would think in this case that you would be able to access network resources again. And let's try. I don't think it's going to work. So yeah, we get access denied still. So in any other situation, if you're not in session 0, this would work, what we just did here, where we get a new ticket and then we pass the ticket into our logon session, and then we would be able to access network resources as if we were the user that we requested the ticket for. But we're in session 0, so like it doesn't work, I guess. This is the only thing. So what we can do, the workaround for this is to do service tickets instead of ticket granting tickets. So I'm going to do that. So we can do this manually. We're going to grab a ticket granting ticket, and then we're going to use that ticket to get a service ticket. So if I take this ticket granting ticket here, we can request a service ticket with Rubius. So I'm going to do ask TGS, and then I'm going to ticket : and then I'm going to paste. I think that'll work. Right, of course, but of course I need to specify the service name here. So service. So assuming we're trying to access the domain controller, we need to do like CIFS and then dc.borger.local.
Did you just say
And then
KIFs?
You did.
CIFS. I said CIFS.
Do you target CIFs just
Potato,
because you know
potato.
it don't exist, or do you target CIFs for any other specific reason?
Well, because CIFS, if we're gonna do, if I'm trying to access this file share, the C dollar file share, then it's gonna be any file share is CIFS or KIFs, whatever.
Right.
So
I don't understand why host doesn't work. I thought that was supposed to allow access to any services, but I found that host never works when you call it like that. If you're trying to hit the,
yeah,
over
I'm not
SMB.
sure. I think host is like for WMI and stuff typically. But yeah, I guess I'm not 100% sure. So, okay, so we ran this command here, basically getting a service ticket or KIFs on the domain controller. And then we imported the ticket into our logon session. So now finally, I think we can do this. Hope this works. I'm not wrong here, but nope. Okay, I guess I'm wrong. So either, oh, you know what I did? Can any of you guys see what I did wrong here? I specified it as DC instead of dc.borger.local. So when I requested the ticket up here, I said dc.borger.local, and then I try to do a dir of DC, and that gives me access denied. And then I did dir of dc.borger.local, which is the actual subject name or whatever that I requested.
You just need to be consistent across the board, or
you got to be consistent. Yep. So I think
so you can do it either
I,
way. You just got to be consistent.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna try this. I don't know if this works, but I'll try to grab a ticket for just DC by itself and see if.
Is that because of how it's stored in the ticket itself?
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're not allowed to access dc.borger.local. You only got a ticket for just DC, or vice versa. So let's see if I can do this again. So I think now probably it'll work. Let's find out. Nope, I guess not. I guess you have to be fully qualified. So yeah, do your FQDNs. Don't use, don't use halfway paths like this. So yeah, now we can upload and download to this. We could do a third link or bypass the double hop problem in that way. Yeah, so that's the other way to do that. Let's see here. Go back over here to my slideshow. Okay. So yeah, you can't pass the TGT in session 0, which is a problem. I don't fully understand why that is, but something to keep in mind. And the solution is, okay, let's pass the TGS instead. You're limited to only the specified service when you do that, which kind of sucks, but you can still get access to the things that you need to, and you can request multiple TGSs if you have multiple servers you need to gain access to. So keep that in mind. And of course, if you want to not have session 0 problems, you can inject out of session 0. So like, just create a new process in someone else's session or whatever. So this is my what moment where I try to do this. So this is session 0, and like I'm running Rubius, the ticket successfully imports, and then like you have no permissions to read the directory. And then in session 1 here, I do literally the exact same command. The ticket successfully imports, and then like it works for some reason. So I guess I don't 100% know why that is, but something to keep in mind. And that session 0 sucks, and either get out of session 0 or there's other kind of workarounds if you're stuck in session 0. So let's see, that was the demo. The last thing I wanted to demonstrate here is injecting out of session 0 when available. So if I go, I'm gonna switch again here. I did a little bit of writing with Bad Rat, and now there's process injection, like actual process injection in Bad Rat. So the let's see here. So if we get a process listing on a host, regardless if it's Beacon or whatever, you should be able to see the session IDs, the session numbers associated with processes. So if you look up here, you can see that there's session IDs associated with each process here. In this case, you can kind of see that there's only 2 session IDs, right? There's session 1 here, and there's session 0, of course, which always exists. So maybe if we're in session 0, we can do some injection into session 1. In this case, the K Clark user is in session 1, so we can kind of steal their access token. So I'm going to do that here really quick. I'm going to do, let's do Explorer just for fun, I guess. So I'm going to inject into Explorer this process right here, so that we can kind of bypass the whole session 0 annoyances that we're dealing with right now. So Bad Rat has donut exec now, which basically uses the Python donut module to convert a binary to shellcode, and then it will use normal Bad Rat process injection to run that shellcode in whatever process you give it. So I'm going to give it the process ID, and then I'm going to tell it I want to donutify the Bad Rat 2.0 implant, and we could chain this, but I'm just for fun, I'm gonna just because we're just gonna go back to HTTP all the way. So I gotta give it the call home variable here. So the Bad Rat implant needs like you could be given an argument of like where the call home is. So in this case, something like this. You just got to give it the right URL here up to here, and then whatever you want afterwards. So run this. And we get a new rat check-in from the C# rat. So this one is direct, right? Because we ran it directly against the web server. But we should be able to see now that our process is changed. I'm gonna run get PID, which tells us that we're in 6204, which is Explorer, which is this, which is Explorer right here, right? So now we're not stuck in session 0. We're in session 1 now, and I can do. Basically, we now take on the session or the credentials of the user in session 1. So that's another way of doing it. Just do some process injection and kind of steal the credentials or the session of whatever user is running that process. So that's all I had basically. I don't know if you guys had any questions, but
Yeah, can you remind me what session 0 is again? I'm sorry, I missed that part.
are you serious?
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. I knew you weren't listening the whole time, David. So yeah, those are the 2 new things with Bad Rat, is you can do parent-child beacons or rats, whatever, and then you can do process injection a little bit cleaner. You can inject into processes or create your own process and then inject into it. So those 2 things were kind of like choke points or like, bottlenecks, limitations, really big limitations with the tool that I fixed. So, if you feel like not using beacon, give Bad Rat a try. So
Nice job, dude.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, very
Excellent. It was yeah, it was well put together, sir.
Thank you.
Dig it for sure. So I'm gonna keep using Bad Rats, I suppose. Just look forward to all the future features.
Oh
you
no,
said-
no.
I'll be pestering you weekly for fixes and features.
You can, I guess.
No more updates after
So-
today, right?
I think
We'll
Amber's
see.
taking over development.
I think Amber is taking over development. Yeah, I have yet to get a good pull request from Bad Rat, so I'm waiting for the first well, I've been waiting for like a year and a half for the first good pull request. So anytime now.
Yeah.
It is Hacktoberfest, so keep that in mind.
Hacktober.
Hacktoberfest. Yeah.